There, he finds Takagi. Although he doesn't say it directly, he makes it clear that he's come to take her home. She's overjoyed and appreciative that Nishikata went out of his way to pick her up, especially since he has an important baseball appointment at 9. As they walk through the school hallway, he teases her, saying that from now on, she'll probably forget her umbrella on purpose just so she can walk home with him. Nishikata blushes and tells her to stop joking. Takagi smiles and replies that she was just joking, or was she? A few days later, winter arrives, and with it, the switch to winter uniforms. Nishikata follows school rules and wears his winter gear properly. Takagi, as usual, doesn't. Because of this, Nishikata proposes a game. The rules are simple. If Takagi says the word cold, Nishikata wins. If she doesn't, she wins. When the game begins, Nishikata does everything he can to make Takagi slip up and say the word, even in front of the whole class. But on the way home, he changes tactics, trying to get her to say it without realizing what he's up to. Unfortunately for Nishikata, Takagi doesn't fall for his tricks. Instead, she turns the tables and says she'll only say the word cold if he dares to let her warm him up, with her hands. Flustered, Nishikata can't bring himself to respond. Blushing, he forfeits the game entirely, making Takagi the winner once again. The next day at lunch, Nishikata finds himself eating alone because Takao and Kimura are absent. Luckily, Takagi joins him. Of course, her company comes at a price, part of his lunch. This time, they decide to play a game for their food. Nishikata is willing to bet his fried chicken, as long as Takagi is willing to bet her fried lotus root. They agree. The challenge. Nishikata has to guess the filling of the rice ball Takagi will eat. He confidently guesses salmon, having noticed a pink tinge in another rice ball in her lunchbox. Nishikata admits that he was wrong. The rice ball he ate did have plums inside. Because of this mistake, he loses to Takagi once again. But this time, the loss stings more. He had bet his beloved fried chicken and lost it. Despite winning, Takagi decides to be fair. She offers Nishikata her fried lotus roots. As she picks them up and walks over, Nishikata wonders if she's going to feed him. But instead, she simply places them on his plate. He hides his disappointment. After lunch, Nishikata shyly confesses that he enjoyed eating with her. Takagi smiles and tells him that next time, he should feed her, hinting that she'd like that. A few days later, their classmate Takao excitedly tells everyone that he's taken a real photo of a UFO. His friends are amazed, until Sune steps in and exposes the truth. She had seen Takao the night before, trying to take pictures of a rock, not a UFO. Even so, Nishikata is captivated by the idea. Inspired by the photo, he decides to recreate it, with Takagi's help. But no matter how hard they try, they can't match Takao's shot. Just when they're about to give up, Nishikata snaps one last photo, and it's perfect. He shows it to Takagi, and they both freeze. A UFO is clearly visible in the sky behind them. Nishikata looks up, and there it is. A real UFO, hovering silently in the sky. He doesn't believe in UFOs, or at least, he didn't asterisk. But now, with the photo and what he just saw, he has no choice but to believe. That evening, with the bath at his house under renovation, Nishikata visits the public bathhouse. As he soaks in the warm water, his thoughts drift to Takagi. He had casually mentioned to her that he'd be there, and now he half expects her to suddenly appear. After finishing his bath, Nishikata heads outside, buys a drink, and prepares to go home. Just then, Takagi appears behind him. Startled, he turns and laughs. "I actually got here before you," he says. "I was planning to sneak up behind you asterisk." A little while later, the two start walking home. On the way, Nishikata suggests a game to Takagi. The goal is to make the other person blush. Since it's already late, Takagi proposes they move closer to each other to better see any signs of blushing. She steps closer to Nishikata, and blushes. You could say that Nishikata wins, but he quickly counters, claiming the game hadn't officially started yet. Before they can properly begin, it's already time for them to part ways and head home. Nishikata offers to walk Takagi home. She blushes at the offer, though Nishikata doesn't notice because it's too dark to see clearly. Trying to play it off, Takagi tells him not to worry, pointing out teasingly that only married couples walk each other home. The next day, Nishikata feels oddly frustrated. When Takagi notices and asks why, he denies anything is wrong. In truth, he's annoyed because his mother served green peppers at breakfast, even though she knows he hates them. He keeps it to himself, knowing that if Takagi finds out, she'll definitely tease him for being childish. Ironically, Takagi already suspects the truth, because Nishikata accidentally mentioned earlier that he didn't feel like eating breakfast. Of course, Takagi doesn't miss a beat. She playfully calls him a child and says that growing up means learning to eat things you don't like. Her teasing makes Nishikata curious. What does she dislike? He turns the tables and proposes a guessing game. If he can figure out what Takagi hates, he wins. Following her cryptic hints, Nishikata makes a guess, pineapple. But to his surprise, she shakes her head. Takagi reveals that the thing she hates isn't a food at all. It's sombra asterisk, and she hints that he should have thought beyond just ingredients. Nishikata is baffled but intrigued, vowing to guess better next time. The following day at school, Yukari, Sanae, and Mina, key members of the Cultural Festival Committee, make a big announcement to their class. This year's main event will be a romantic play. Their choice, Romeo and Juliet, asterisk. With great enthusiasm, they present a detailed model and walk the class through the entire story of the play, setting the stage for what's sure to be an unforgettable festival. After that, it's time to decide on the roles for the class play. Yukari thinks Takagi is perfect for the role of Juliet. Mina, Sanae, and the rest of their classmates agree, so Takagi ends up with the role without even trying. However, the role of the Frog Prince, Romeo, is still open. Unsure of who to cast, Yukari decides to hold auditions. During the auditions, all the boys are rejected one by one. When it's finally Nishikata's turn to perform, Yukari is nervous. Despite the pressure, Nishikata gives a surprisingly good performance, hoping to show Takagi he can be princely too, even if it's just to impress her or get teased. Yukari and Mina are impressed by Nishikata's acting and decide to give him the role. However, Sanae prefers Kimura's exaggerated performance and pushes for him instead. In the end, the role of Romeo is given to Kimura. Nishikata and Takagi are both disappointed by the decision. Later, the two head to a nearby pond, where Nishikata proposes a new game. Whoever catches the most fish wins. He's confident Takagi won't beat him, knowing she's never fished before. Ironically, Takagi catches 2 fish in less than a minute, leaving Nishikata stunned. She shrugs it off, saying it must be her lucky day, she's never even held a fishing rod before. Determined not to lose, Nishikata quickly casts his line and manages to hook a fish. Unfortunately, it turns out to be enormous, and he struggles to pull it out. Just as he's about to fall into the pond, Takagi jumps in and hugs him from behind to keep him from toppling over. The fish escapes the line, and Nishikata is left speechless, partly from losing the catch, but mostly from Takagi's sudden embrace. As they walk home afterward, Nishikata can't stop thinking about what happened. His heart is still racing from Takagi's unexpected hug. Even so, he can't help feeling frustrated that he lost yet another game, especially one he came up with. Takagi claims victory and, as punishment, tells Nishikata that he must help her with her role as Juliet. A few days later, the school is abuzz with preparations for the cultural festival. The second-year students are rehearsing their play, Romeo and Juliet asterisk. Kimura performs enthusiastically as Prince Pig Romeo, but he frequently improvises, adding new lines that make Yukari anxious. Although Yukari disapproves, Sanae supports Kimura's creative choices, leaving Yukari with no influence over the direction of the play. Meanwhile, Nishikata is preparing for his role as the Japanese fruit superhero, Kippidango. He's especially nervous about acting opposite Takagi, who plays Juliet, and her presence makes it hard for him to deliver his lines properly. Yukari scolds him for his poor performance and urges him to practice more. Motivated, Nishikata later asks Takagi to meet him on the rooftop, though he doesn't explain why. Takagi agrees, and Nishikata is thrilled. But on his way there, he realizes he never told her the actual reason for the meeting. He plans to ask her to help him rehearse his lines but grows nervous, worrying that Takagi might think he asked her there for a more personal reason. When he arrives, he begins to explain, but suddenly realizes he's lost his script. As Takagi approaches, he fumbles, then quickly pulls out a backup copy and tells her he wants to practice together, especially the scene where Kippidango appears. Takagi, realizing Nishikata had been overthinking the situation, finds it amusing and laughs. They begin practicing their lines together. The next day, the school cultural festival begins. Eager to outwit Takagi, Nishikata enters the haunted house attraction. His plan: to go through it multiple times so he can memorize every scare. That way, when he goes through it with Takagi later, he won't be frightened, and she'll finally be the one who's more scared than him. Ironically, Takagi surprises Nishikata by appearing behind him. When she hears his plan, she has no idea what he's thinking, but all he can focus on is getting her into the haunted house first and escaping before things get too scary. He agrees, and once inside, it takes him approximately 43 seconds to rush back out. Then it's Nishikata's turn. Just as he's trying to build up the courage to enter, Takagi unnerves him by claiming there's a real monster inside. She explains that if this monster touches his shoulder 4 times, it will pull him into its world. Filled with dread, Nishikata steps into the haunted house, feeling like something is chasing him. While navigating through fake monsters and jump scares, he suddenly feels his shoulder touched 3 times. Overwhelmed with fear, he collapses to the ground, only to realize, to his shock, that it was Takagi all along. She had been following him, teasing him with the haunted house scares. Later, the school play, Romeo and Juliet, begins. Takagi and Kimura take the lead roles and perform brilliantly, making the entire audience, including Tanabe, laugh with their comedic twist on the classic tragedy. In the next act, Fuju appears on the mysterious Island of Demons, where Romeo and Juliet are to be saved from the evil Dark Wizard, played by Takao. Upon arriving on the island, the two lovers encounter a group of strange superheroes, one of whom is Nishikata, playing the role of Kippidango. He delivers his lines successfully and exits, relieved that he won't be appearing again in the play. The play continues. When Romeo and Juliet confront the Dark Wizard, he casts a spell turning Romeo into a ham. Kimura, now as the transformed Romeo, spins around the stage before exiting, but the spinning makes him dizzy and nauseous. Unable to continue, Kimura quietly steps out, and Nishikata takes over the role. As Juliet prepares to take her own life after Romeo's supposed demise, she stumbles and nearly falls off the stage. Acting quickly, Nishikata, dressed as Romeo, leaps in to save her. In the chaos, he accidentally drops his pig mask and is forced to improvise the ending. Despite everything, the audience erupts with laughter and applause, turning the play into a surprise comedy hit. Nishikata confesses his love for Takagi as part of the play, and she plays along, teasing him by making him hoof it and calling him Prince. Nishikata blushes as the curtain suddenly falls, marking an improvised, yet satisfying end to the play. Yukari and her friends are thrilled by the unexpected twist, while Tanabe, overwhelmed with emotion, bursts into tears. With that, the cultural festival comes to a close. To celebrate the success of Romeo and Juliet, the students gather for a karaoke session they've set up themselves. Meanwhile, our protagonists reflect on their performances. Takagi leans toward Nishikata and admits that she wasn't acting when she called him Prince. His face turns bright red, and just as he struggles to find the right words, Mina and her friends call Takagi over to sing. The next day, Takagi sends a message to Nishikata, telling him she's taking her dog out for a walk. Knowing Nishikata loves dogs, she suspects he won't be able to resist. Sure enough, he quickly leaves his house, only to, accidentally, run into her on the road. Once the awkward surprise fades, they walk together. Nishikata badly wants to ask if he can hold the dog's leash, but he's too embarrassed, worried Takagi might tease him. Sensing this, Takagi smiles and offers him the leash, saying, he loves to run, you know. Hearing this, Nishikata doesn't hesitate. He runs alongside the dog, laughing, until they reach the shrine, where he carefully takes care of it. A few moments later, Takagi catches up, and with all three reunited, they begin the walk home. As they stroll, Nishikata can't hide his joy. He got to walk Takagi's dog, just as he'd hoped. Takagi watches him with a soft smile. She's happy too, though for a different reason. Curious, Nishikata asks her why. She challenges him to guess. Nervous, Nishikata considers the only explanation he can think of, that she's happy because she got to spend time with him asterisk. But he doesn't say it out loud. Instead, he stays silent, his expression giving him away. The next day, as they're walking home after school, Nishikata suddenly realizes he's forgotten his homework assignment. So, he said goodbye to Takagi and went back to get it. Luckily for him, Takagi decided to come along. When they arrived at the school, he noticed that there were still many students around. Takagi commented to Nishikata that most of them were married couples who had gotten together thanks to the cultural festival. This made Nishikata nervous. He was worried that his classmates might see him with Takagi and assume they were a couple. Just then, Takao and Kimura appeared. Not wanting to be seen with Takagi, Nishikata panicked, ran into the boys' bathroom, and climbed out the window. After that, Nishikata returned to school, this time without Takagi, but unfortunately ran into her again in the classroom. He retrieved his homework and was about to leave when Nakai and Mono showed up. When they saw Nishikata with Takagi, they assumed the two were a couple and decided to give them space. This made Nishikata even more nervous, and he wanted to leave as soon as possible. But Takagi insisted they stay and do their homework together. Nishikata blushed deeply at the suggestion, and Takagi laughed at how flustered he was. The next day, they were assigned to work in the library again. While Nishikata read a book about dogs, Takagi pulled out a needle and thread from her bag and began knitting. Her knitting skills surprised Nishikata, and his curiosity got the better of him. Takagi handed him an extra needle and some thread, offering to teach him how to knit. Nishikata was confused by her instructions, so she came over and gently held his hands to guide him through the movements. Blushing furiously, Nishikata quickly gave up, insisting he had no interest in learning to knit after all. Takagi just smiled and teased him about how red his face had gotten. She returned to her knitting, and despite himself, Nishikata's curiosity began to stir once more.